important des hommes. Donc, et ça c'est pour nous les effets du changement climatique.
Do you think we in the West are responsible for this also?
La réponse est toute simple. Mais qui pollue la planète? La grande responsabilité de la pollution de la planète relève de l'Occident. Et c'est à l'Occident de payer. C'est une question de sécurité tout court. Tout ceci va produire quoi? Notre jeunesse est sans emploi. Ils vont aller ailleurs, ou alors notre jeunesse répondra à la première sirène de Boko Haram ou des djihadistes.
The siren call of extremism. With nowhere else to turn, there is that darker option. I'm seeing how conditions here might touch American lives. I wonder, do our leaders back home understand the full impact of a changing climate?
Neither California nor indeed the world can ignore the growing assault on the very systems of nature on which human beings and other forms of life depend.
7,000 miles from the deserts of Africa, there is at least one American politician who gets it. California Governor Jerry Brown. No stranger to environmental issues, he's been battling the oil and gas industries since the 70s. And while he knows he can't fight a drought, he can fight climate change, preventing far worse droughts in the future. And Brown has a radical solution. A bill that would cut oil use in the state in half by 2030.
We use about 18 billion gallons a year of diesel and gasoline.
In California.
In California. To say we're going to cut all that in half in some way, or cut the fuel in half, how are we going to do it?
Are we up against the clock in a way that's going to make something like that have to be fast-tracked to have any success?
If we as the 7.2 billion people on planet Earth, yeah, we are up against it. I think there's now 1 billion cars in the world. There was only 300 million when I was governor 35 years ago. And we'll be up at 2 billion cars pretty soon. And what I want to do in California is make sure we stay on course and set a good example so that other states, federal government, other countries will join with us. I like to do things that are big, that are significant. And working on climate change is working on something that makes a difference.
My guess is the governor is going to have a huge fight on his hands. Last year, the oil industry sold $86 billion in petroleum to Californians. I can't imagine they'll be too thrilled about the prospect of having their profits slashed, but Governor Brown plays the long game. We met a family in Porterville, the Toledo family. Their well is run dry. They may have to move.
The world is going to change. And whether you're in that valley of California or you're on the eroding coasts of New Orleans and Miami, how we handle that with the millions of refugees and migrants, it's going to be really disruptive. So what you saw in Porterville, you'll just see 1,000 or 1 million times more. Whether it becomes completely universal and catastrophic, that depends on how quickly we make the change.
This is what we do know. Well over 200 girls were kidnapped by heavily armed gunmen.
Boko Haram, known for mass abductions like this one, is considered one of the world's deadliest terrorist organizations. And it's been affiliated with both ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Could climate change be having an influence on the rise of extremism here?
Here I have 3 maps I wanted to show you. The first is the vulnerability to desertification in Africa. And as you can see...
It runs right through the middle of Africa.
Yeah. Here you have the food riots and where they have exploded the same year. And if you take the map of terrorist attack, Al-Qaeda type of attack, we go exactly again.
Right through the center of the continent.
Yes, this is reality.
Desert, food riots, Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
Yeah.
Same map, same places.
Exactly. You can tell me that there is no direct consequences of one of another, but denying that there is no links, this is where I am kind of stunned. By 2045, so 30 years from now, they say that 60 million people may be moving from south part of Africa, below the Sahara, to North Africa and to Europe. 60 million.
What you're talking about it's terrifying, Monique.
We have underestimated what is happening in terms of small farmers losing their natural capital. And the only natural capital that people have around here is the land.
Monique, you get to be queen for a day. You get to invest in one big solution for everything we're talking about. What would it be?
You see, today in the world, people are putting walls all over the place. And me also, I dream of a wall. But it is a wall that we have called the Great Green Wall.
Climate change is a major factor in the deterioration of soil here. The Great Green Wall would create a ribbon of restoration projects to conserve every drop of water possible and turn deserts back into fertile land. The project is almost a decade old, but it needs oversight and financing to start making headway.
You know, to restore an hectare of degraded land, it costs between $100 and $300, okay? Compared to peace, to security, to human dignity, what is it we're talking about? Not much. Not much.
60 million refugees fleeing Africa. The West can't even manage 1 million Syrians. And what's so surprising is that so many of the migrants I've met here are from Senegal. I've always thought that Senegal was one of West Africa's most stable and prosperous countries. It appears that might be changing.
Take a deep breath. Want to know how you did that? What are the life forms that shape our planet behind the scenes? Why can't life exist without death? How did our planet end up in the right place at the right time so that we could all exist right now?
How many hotels does Trivago compare? 1,000? 30,000? 200,000? 900,000? Trivago now compares prices from over 1 million hotels to find your ideal hotel for the best price. Hotel Trivago.
Fox Original Productions comes to Asia, bringing you premium Chinese miniseries for the first time. Hottest stars giving you infinite excitement. Full of treachery and pillage. The trading floor. Sins unveiled, no place to hide. Stained 2018, the new dramatic power on SCN.
Doc! Doc! I need ammo! Get in!
You train for the worst.
Let's go!
But nothing prepares you for something like that.
Split second, everything's fine. Next thing you know, it's...
I already accepted I was gonna die.
My Fighting Season, Friday nights at 10 on National Geographic.
War, Inc. Thursday nights at 9 on National Geographic.
What is it like living with the greatest artist of all time?
It makes life exciting.
Everyone wants something from the great Picasso. I want to paint you. It's brilliant. Radical.
Passionate.
Did you hear that? We are a triumph.
Adam and Griselda Toledo have planted their make or break crop of oats. But with
Well, it certainly raises a lot of really interesting questions, and this is what investigators are going to be looking at. They're going to be trying to figure out what was the real source of the money, assuming that the documents show that the money went into this consulting account. Was it this company? Was it the Russians? Where does the money really originate from? And they're going to follow that money trail to figure that out. Consulting services, which seems, very sketchy, for lack of a better legal term, or were they in repayment for some kind of promise or action that either Trump or someone in his inner circle?
His warnings, his Miranda warnings, or any warnings about search and seizure, correct?
Yeah, and what's fascinating is this is an individual. He's one of the wealthiest people in Russia. His connections to the Russian state are debatable. It depends on who you talk to and what we've talked about the salacious details of the dossier at times, but also through money. And what we see happening here is we see money flowing in, which seems to be some sort of access or influence to the president. We see money possibly coming from the president. If it wasn't for legal work and if it wasn't for lobbying work, then what was this money for? It seems to be trying to buy access.